Welcome to Blind Level Tech. This isn't just accessible tech talk. This is technology on a whole new level. We're showing you just how possible it is to live the life you want.
Wow. Well, welcome to Blind Level Tech. I am your host, Evan Starnes, and this week we are going to be transitioning away from gaming and over to writing. And I am joined today by somebody who I was introduced to on actually our low vision support group a couple of weeks ago. We geeked out quite a bit. So I am incredibly, redonkulously excited to bring Elyse Draper, correct me if I'm wrong.
That's perfect.
Elyse Draper on to Blind Level Tech. She is a writer and has, I don't know how many, I actually haven't really had a dive into your publishing background or any of that sort of stuff yet. So welcome to Blind Level Tech, Elyse. Can you give us sort of what we like to call an audio selfie of your background?
The breakdown. My goodness. Okay. As far as the publishing industry goes, as a writer, I actually started out nonfiction, proposal, grantsman, you name it. I would put my little fingers on it for a little extra cash. Also, simultaneously was working as a medic with in hospice care. First geriatrics, then oncology, and then finally I worked with special needs and terminal children. After a lifetime of that, my writing took a very severe right turn into fiction, satire, and speculative. So I write science fiction, basically. I've been doing this the writing professionally and for enjoyment for about 25 years. I've spent 30 some odd years working in various fields, professional writing, technical, and copy. I have 5 published books, 3 published anthologies, and approximately 600 published articles specifically focusing on Denver Author Examiner as the author examiner for the publishing industry, right on the cusp of independent publishing. So that was fun. And now, after all these long years as a long-form formatter and professional writer, I am the marketing director and CMO for iPub Cloud International. We specialize in publishing diverse voices. We want to fill the gaps that have been overlooked by traditional publishing. And offshoots of that, we have Sprabeld, which is an AI platform meant to help disabled children or children with disabilities to tell stories themselves where they can actually write themselves into a good story as a protagonist. And it's focused on ages approximately 3rd to 5th grade so that we can help them learn to love the stories they're writing, themselves within stories, and the literacy points, which was a great deal of prompts put into AI to allow them to produce their own story with AI assistant, and it follows the narrative arc, so they have literacy touch them as well. And then we also have the VIMB, which is the Low Vision and Blind Creatives Workshop, based entirely off of spotlighting the creative mind behind loss of sight.
That is awesome, and we'll definitely be linking to all of those in the show notes for sure. Now, can you describe your level of vision and what are the assistive devices or tools that you use on a daily basis?
I have a rare disease called punctate intercordiopathy. It's kind of like a buckshot disease, if anybody's familiar with that. It's where the retina has holes, indents that are filled usually with white scars. Because mine is an autoimmune disease, my immune system continues to attack those areas long after the scars are gone. So what does this have to do? I have what is known as asymmetric bilinear sight loss. They're very odd shapes in my eyes. It's both my peripheral and my central vision, and it looks something like a Dalmatian, and someone got a little crazy with the ink inside my retinal skin. It causes 2 things. Eye strain, obviously. I have less than 5% central field of vision in my left eye, so it's pretty much useless, but 10 degrees of vision in my right. And I use that as a graphic designer, graphic illustrator, and professional writer. Now, how do I do that? Well, I run everything on my iPad that I have to read as an editor for a publishing house. I read about 4 or 5, or listen to 4 or 5 books a week from submission. And I do that on VoiceStream. or Speechify on my iPad. Both of those are really nice. Actually, and both of them have wonderful selections for voices. If you're sick and tired of the Jaws Stephen Hawking effect.
You don't like eloquence?
Right. Yeah. I because of the sheer amount I have to listen to and sift through, it's just nice to have something to listen to. So I've been using those for to help me with my books. I do have Zoom for my screen. I'm not myopic or mildly myopic, if that. So what little vision I have is actually quite good. But I also have photophobia. So I use a number of different shields, including eye guards or a special colored clip-on for my glasses when I am having particularly photophobic issues with the computer. If it gets too bad, then I switch over to JAWS and just shut off my screen. I was mentioning, and you have mad hotkey skills. That has been one of my biggest hurdles, is trying to memorize the different hotkeys for all the different programs.
Yes. Totally different workflow too.
It really is.
And actually, speaking of workflow, in the sense of writing, can we go over just like, even for any writer, kind of a good general workflow to kind of avoid getting yourself into a situation of writer's block, or, oh man, I've written all this like dumpage and I have no idea what to do with it, or I haven't written anything at all, but I said I was going to, and people are counting on me. Like, what's a good workflow as a writer?
Honestly, instead of being afraid of technology, use it to your asset. AI can help to push on workflow. It's gotten to the point now where the more comfortable you are with AI, especially with the new administration going into deregulation of AI for the next 10 years, the more comfortable you are using various types of AI, you'll be highly sought after in an employment or job opportunity professionally. It has become that much of a mainstream tool. For our community, it actually works out it's quite good. I've always worked with Microsoft. I was built Microsoft templates before I started losing my vision. That was part of the long form formatting. So I tend to go back to Microsoft. But if you are going to be copy and pasting anything from Microsoft online, whether it's an email, website, anything, I highly recommend having Notebook open. It is a TXT format, and it does something called nuking the formatting. So if you post something and you go back and when it's read back to you, you have very strange characters that are showing up around the words as far as coding goes. It's because programs like Word and Google Docs actually have metadata in the back end of the formatting, and that doesn't transfer over as web text. So you'll end up with very, very strange characters, like the @ symbol and exclamation point, question mark, backslash, and then your sentence. It'll happen. Sometimes it'll just happen because the font that is being used on Word that we aren't aware of is not actually compatible online. Now, the letters themselves might be compatible, but parentheses, quotation marks, you name it, those are not compatible. And so the web fills in strange characters. To remove all of that, yes. And so to remove all of those hiccups, I always have Notepad open. I will write something. I will use my read aloud on Word to read it back to me so I can hear the tone and the space and any grammatical errors that might be there. Then I will copy and paste it into my Notepad, and then copy and paste it again and put it onto my web. I know it sounds like it's a lot, but it saves clarity and from unsightly mistakes, these special characters creeping up into your writing that you wouldn't be aware of otherwise.
And I think once you get into that workflow, it's actually not a lot of heavy lifting at all. And
right.
I think tools too, like OpenAI based things like I haven't really played with Copilot, but it can help you, especially when it comes to taking a big picture look at your flow and writing structure. And if there's any little finite mistakes that you might not catch, just proofreading. Absolutely. I've from my experiences, it's really darn good for that. And even things like I've personally used like ChatGPT's conversation voice mode and just talk to it, and it helped me brainstorm. It's really, really good for brainstorming and things like that.
I would highly recommend. Well, Word uses Copilot, obviously, because it's Microsoft. Of the three that are going to be the ones you see the most right now, which is Copilot, Microsoft, ChatGPT, which is OpenAI, and then Google has Gemini. Of the three, Gemini is free. You get the same amount of goodies out of Gemini that you get out of Copilot and OpenAI or ChatGPT, but you do not have to pay for it. It comes free with your search engine if you're using Google
It's
Chrome.
really capable.
It is. Yeah. The tech, as far as the tech background goes on that, OpenAI is one of first, at least the first made public AI. The Copilot came in later. It is still flawed. It still has some issues with bias answers. They haven't quite figured out the coding correctly to do research, verifiable, cited research. So some of its stuff, it's getting better. Mind you, it is getting better. But it's, as far as its accuracy, I would put it on the lower end of the scale. ChatGPT is fun to play with. It is more than capable. You do have to pay for it if you want the Pro. And it does okay. Gemini, on the other hand, is actually the oldest. Well, not Gemini, the name, but the coding that was built into it is the oldest. Google has been
probably
fighting,
based off of Google Now and stuff.
Exactly. Google's been fighting spam and verification of sites and keyword recognition longer than these other apps have been around or even thought of using these. Within that, they had something in 2017 called BERT, B-E-R-T, that helped to actually sift through the onslaught of keywords that bots and spam sites were using, and switched over to something called key phrases in your metadata that allows it to find articles on your sites and social media and so on and so forth and verify that you're a human being. The really nice part of that is Google is a spearhead for how we find things that we shop for online. So it helps it's been helping to filter out those that would scam us. And they do have a very tough process of validating sites, stores, and charities. So they've been sifting through all of the searchable data for years and years and years, and then they bring in something that's specifically learning how to adapt and work that data in 2017. And they've taken all of this information, all of these cited works, how to look for verifiable accounts and legitimacy, and they put it into Gemini's little brain, which makes Gemini not only free, but more accurate than the other two.
They kind of had the whole large language model concept in the bag, basically, from the get-go.
They did. Absolutely. Yes. And, without it, the other two wouldn't have existed.
When it comes to writing your own stories and what have you, do you prefer to outline, or would you rather just go ahead and do a brain dump? I know we kind of talked about this earlier pre-recording.
You actually one of my favorite topics to talk about is the idea that there are two writers. There is the gardener and there's the architect. The gardener will take seeds of ideas and they will plant them, and then as they are writing, they will see what grows. They'll pluck that and they'll run with it. And they may use multiple batches of seeds to get through any kind of long form writing. Now, the architect actually has a planned idea. They'll start with mind maps and syllabuses, character outlines, and timetables. And they usually, I know it's true for me, write the ending first so that you have everything laid out and all of the plot points that are necessary to hit before you start the actual brainstorming process, so that way you don't lose your way. I'm an architect, so I do brain dump, but honestly, when I brain dump, it's usually into a syllabus, so I have an idea of exactly how I want it to go, how I already foresee an ending, and how I can make that happen. So that is my workflow on that one. It's usually very mental.
Yeah, for sure. When it comes to actually publishing your books, how do you go about formatting your books to be published, and how has that experience been? And how is it typically for the blind, low vision writers?
I started losing my vision in 2014, so I've been a writer longer than I've been visually impaired. I can tell you a difference between then and now. I do not think I would have been able to without the advancements we have in computers. Like I said, at JAWS, I do use the speech to text in Word to help me do outlines and the like. But there are certain aspects to final formatting that no matter what your visual acuity may be, you need to actually work with a professional in that area. A good copy editor. My old copy editor that worked for the Rocky Mountain News way back when, and he was the guy that you expected to see sitting around with the green hat and the chewing on a cigar, yelling at people kind of copy editor. If it wasn't for him, the manuscript would not have read properly. There are so many little nuances to those voices we hear in our head and the voice on the page that we don't catch. As far as it being grammatically correct, it's hard to catch that. So I highly recommend, when it comes to actually editing the final editing, the formatting, and so on and so forth, talk to a professional. It's the same no matter what. That's just a rule. Talk to a professional. And most good writers are not really great editors, and most really great editors are not terribly creative writers. So it's exchange in pure form, these two entities in the publishing world. Aside from that, take advantage of Grammarly, take advantage of the word editing, spell check, and software. I know most people know
mode is pretty good.
It does. Most people think that Word has spell checking, but can't rely on it, which is somewhat true. It'll have a difficult time with names and the like. I have one of the books that I'd written about a Ukrainian family, it was Poland at the time, during the Holocaust. And there were a lot of very, very difficult names that were many times misspelled later on in the book, but spell check wasn't going to identify them as spelled right at any degree. So when you get to a point in spell check where it has a name that's wrong, but it's spelled correctly, add it to the dictionary, and then it will check that against the rest of the names so that you know that they are spelled right. There's ways to manipulate the system to make it work better for you. I have my Word always set up to edit for AP, the Associated Press style, and CMOS, Chicago Manual of Style. Now, in some places they conflict, but in many places they're the same, and I know the tone that I'm writing, so I know which one of the editing choices that it's giving me actually applies. But that's 30 years of being in this industry, and I'm not actually a terrible editor myself. For the individual who's stepping up and using their computer, there are a lot of advantages, and Grammarly does work well with Word, so that is an option.
That's good to know. I remember a few years ago it wasn't accessible, but it seems to be a lot better now since I've tried it.
I didn't know. That's what I was going to ask, is if it was still having hiccups in accessibility.
Seems to be getting better.
Okay.
So,
the advancements, when we were talking about the voices from Speechify and VoiceStream,
you have like 11 Labs Reader too.
Yes, 11 Labs is good. It's better at cloning. I like Speechify just to read, but it's voices. You're right. Level 11, that is the standard 11 Labs. Basically, what it does is it actually gives you the inflection of your voice that matches your grammar. So if you have the small pause on a comma versus a harder pause on a semicolon versus an actual pause for two beats on a period, you can hear it in their voices, so when you're editing how it's going to sound, and it helps a lot with the editing process if you have a good voice tool. Absolutely.
It kind of narrates your books for you. Like, what platforms would you recommend using to market your book once it's published and ready to be read?
Well, getting it to the point of published after going through the formatting and everything else, one of the easiest platforms for self-publish and independent publish is actually, it's Kindle, the KDP, Kindle Direct Publishing. Used to be CreateSpace. It allows you to publish and go directly to Amazon. Now, Amazon is still very unfavorably held by other bookstores because it started as a bookstore and it put a lot of bookstores out of business. So your mom and pop bookstores, the coffee houses that are bookstores, even Barnes and Noble, they tend not to like to work with Amazon for two reasons. Amazon is their nemesis, number one. And number two, if they order in large quantities from self-published on Amazon, they cannot turn an independently published book. So unless you have the publishing house there to absorb the return price, buying 500 books so that you can have a book signing could actually be the difference between being able to make the rent on the bookshop and not. If you can't return it, then you're in big trouble. So the alternative to that is to go to Ingram. And we're talking about paperback books available in stores. And Amazon does obviously Audible and e-readers, the EPUB. Ingram is how you're going to actually get into bookstores for book signings and the like. There are a lot of different EPUB sites that cater to the same rule goes to these bookstores online. Apple Books wants nothing to do with Amazon. Unless you publish outside of Amazon, Apple Books they will be very uncomfortable about carrying it. So the easiest way to do is something called Draft to Digital. It used to be Smashwords. Draft to Digital is a free site that allows you to upload an EPUB, and it has standards and formatting. I believe now the they used to call the meat grinder, which meant you needed to have it edited and formatted on point for any e-reader. I do believe that it does that for you now, so that your books can go directly into their catalog and made available. Now, it's actually a very good way to go because it provides it for Kobo, which is Walmart. It will provide digital copies at Target. It will provide your digital qualities to Apple and onto Google and Barnes and Noble.
I was just going to say.
And that way you can the digital EPUBs are available. Technologically wise, though, that's where it gets kind of interesting on the EPUB. The formatting for an EPUB has to be something called reflowable. And basically that means that the text can move, fit any size screen. And as far as accessibility goes, as it's moving to fit those screen, you can make the font larger. You can make it an easier read font. All of those assets that we take advantage of on our e-readers, the individual publishing needs to be in a reflow. So also now, and remember to request it, Adobe Bridge creates metadata, the alt text on the back of every image in an EPUB that allows the screen reader to, and still to this day, they will skip over pictures, which loses some of the feel of the story. Using the Adobe Bridge to make sure the alt text is actually embedded in the picture means that your screen reader will not only acknowledge the picture, but describe it for you with using the alt text in your ebooks.
That's so cool, though. I'm glad that they're doing that automatic generation. They need to do that more because I feel like, even if it is not as accurate as doing it yourself, it's gotten pretty good. And a lot of people forget to add, unfortunately, they do forget to add alt text to their images. And so you do end up just hearing unlabeled graphic or what have you. And it's not it's a disappointment for sure. Now we're about to do something that definitely, hopefully won't be a disappointment before, as it is something I haven't really done on the show in a long time, because it's time for our lightning round, and it is time to play Trash or Tool, or I haven't heard of this. What the heck are you talking about? That was an option I added at the end.
Oh, good. Yeah.
We're going to go over a bunch of different tools and resources and things, and even just concepts. And what I'm asking is, do you think this is a good tool or something that you like, or is it total, complete, hot garbage? Or have you never even heard of this before, which will be fun too. So are you ready for Trash or Tool?
I am.
All right. So we're going to start with Atticus. I haven't even heard of it, actually.
Okay. No, I want to say I've heard of it. I am not, I'm not familiar. I don't know.
We're going to we're going to put that in the haven't heard of it category. So how about Canva for book covers? And Canva's okay, accessibility wise. Not really though.
It's a graphic design software, so it's going to be a little bit iffy on the accessibility. But for graphic design software, it's better than, I don't know, trying to figure out InDesign or Photoshop or Illustrator for that matter. Canva is halfway decent, but for actual publishing your book covers and the like, I would not recommend it. I wouldn't say trash, just wouldn't recommend it.
I like We'll have an category. I like that. It's a nice improvised. Oh God, that was terrible. That was a good improvisation. That was so bad. Gosh. Well, how about the Clubhouse platform for marketing or for book events and stuff like that?
Now, honestly, if I was going to recommend a social media app that is actually halfway decent to work with, I would go with Hootsuite before Clubhouse. I know it's audio based, which it does help, but there's a lot more. There's the community that's with Clubhouse, yes, because there is more to it than actual handling your accounts. Because social media itself is not terribly accessible, one that can actually, because it's sheer size, handle all of your social media with one post would be Hootsuite. So Clubhouse, again, it's finite. That's where I'm going with it. Yeah.
Gotcha. And the last up here, and I'm right from the start going to put this personally for myself in the big fat trash category, is when it comes to audiobooks, is it best to have them narrated by an AI or by a human?
Well,
like AI narrators.
Let me answer this in a much more realistic realistic way. The average cost of an audiobook, say 6 to 7 hours completed, is approximately $2,000 and up. And even at $2,000, your cast, your audio person, take a percentage from your sales, as well as the distributor taking a percentage from the sales, and possibly the publishing house taking a percentage from the sales. So it leaves you with a finite, very small amount. Because of that, and trying to be realistic with it, given the advancements in voices, I would say always I prefer a human voice, personally. And I know most people do.
Yeah.
But for cost effectiveness, to get your book out to be listened to by the blind community, by getting it on Bard, having it sold in Audible, I would suggest using the AI. Don't be afraid of the AI just because you hate the sound. Right. Embrace the AI. Actually, Amazon has an AI option when you publish through them that is halfway decent, allows you to switch voices and chapters, create almost a acting platform back and forth between your characters. So it is definitely functional, and it's actually pretty easy to use, and I can negotiate it pretty well. So for accessibility, so far it's been all right. I'd much rather it be live, but let's be realistic. Sometimes you got to embrace the AI.
Yep. I think that's a good quote for this episode. And I do appreciate you kind of changing my perspective on this, because I've been trying to kind of embrace AI to the best of my abilities, but also try to appreciate the human element. And I'd always, there are fantastic narrators that I've appreciated for decades that I've been listening to. And I'm thinking, my original thinking was, wait, so we're not going to have those anymore. But I think we're getting really close, and I don't think we're ever going to see human narrated books go away. But I think we're actually, what I'm hoping is that we're going to just see a lot more audiobooks out there. I think that'll be a good outcome.
It's going to be an uptick in audiobooks. It's going to be, we've gone through these phases in the past when print on demand really came in. It was frightening the publishing houses. It was going to change the face. Garbage was going to be out. It's the same with AI's intrusion into the voiceover work. Now, as someone who has done work in voiceover, who has done radio work, and our own Jonathan actually knows too, we want to make sure they stay employed. We want the Screen Actors Guilds to because the human element is always going to be better. Whether we realize it or not, we really do know the difference. Even the best AI is still not going to express the emotions that are needed in our favorite books. In any case, however, I know that I'm able to watch a lot more shows because of the AI into audio descript. I hate it.
That's pretty big.
It's huge, right? It's huge for our world. But,
it really is.
I hate it.
It's an opener of sorts.
It is. Honestly,
Yeah.
it provides us with a much broader field of arts that we enjoy. Yes, I love AI. Honestly, if you do a book, I would love to see the books that we put out make enough money that we can then go back and pay the voice actors what they're worth. That is what I would love to see. I would love to see us do it in AI, make enough money so that we can actually pay those voice actors what they're worth to make the book sound like it's supposed to. I don't even know if
we're going to put it into. You answered my question several different times in several different ways. And to polish off this thunderous lightning round that isn't so lightning-y, we're going to put AI narrators actually in the tool category because
they are.
I think so. And I think that with any new technology, people are going to be like, oh, what's this newfangled thing that you're speaking of? Because, I don't know. That's just how it is. You know, I mean, the way I think about AI as a general sense, it's the way that I think about things like going back, you know, when the first microcomputer came out, or when the telephone or the typewriter, you know, those were new technologies, and I'm pretty sure plenty of people were skeptical of them because they got caught and they're in their own workflows. Right. They use what they're used to and they're comfortable, and this pushes people out of their comfort zone. And I think that that's a good thing. It really kind of depends on how you look at it, I suppose.
Yeah, it really, really does. Honestly, the workflow aspect is our worlds will open up with AI. We need to use it ethically, and we need to be aware of the changes. I think most of the fear that's coming from AI is actually the conceptual uncanny valley. The whole idea of robots being too human-like makes us very uncomfortable. Well, it's the same way conceptually dealing with an AI. It can make you feel icky. That's the new technical term is icky. Icky. Yeah, that uncanny valley. But that's, yes, get over it. Use it as a tool. It's not going away. We can't put that cat back in the bag. And if with our ability to adapt and overcome, especially technically, I think I could see the blind community leading the pack in AI and AI workflow usage.
Definitely. I mean, and the fact that it already opens our world up visually is huge for us. And it's not going to replace, it's just going to enhance our abilities and help people that might be struggling to produce music or write a book to get in their creative workflows and to really help make their voices heard and get in whatever way that is. I think I do see that perspective, and I like that perspective, and I think it's a good one to, I think it's true. I do think this isn't like an opinion show, you know, typically, but I just have to say, I do think that we're going to see, AI is here to stay, and AI as we know it, because I mean, AI in a general sense, it's been around since like the 80s, but really what we conceptualize as large language model based tools, things like Gemini, ChatGPT, all of that stuff. I mean, it's here to stay. It's not gonna, you know, if we use it ethically, it'll only help us.
Yes. You know, and the next time we talk, we'll have to talk about low code, no code, and AI and actually allowing us to build web pages and do our social media and all kinds of stuff that's in the not too distant future, I think. One of the problems with social media as far as another show. Yeah. It sounds like another show.
It does. I think we're going to have a part 2. Hey, you know what you need, though, for writing, though? At least what I need, though, is some food, some writing fuel. It is time for the sandwich of the week. What's a good sandwich that won't gum up your keyboard and that tastes good whilst you write?
You know, I've always been a sucker for a good French dip, which absolutely would destroy your keyboard. So take a break away from writing. Let your mind go crazy. And eat a really good French dip, some sauteed onion, a nice au jus, some vermouth. Yeah.
Got me craving one now. Well, you know what? I'm going to be real. The sandwich I picked for this week is also not exactly keyboard friendly. So maybe don't eat a sandwich around your keyboard, especially if you like it. And it's a nice clicky mechanical one, which I got one right here too. I like mechanical keyboards. But my sandwich this week is from a place called Brothers Barbecue here in Boulder. And it's just their original barbecue sandwich. It's perfect. It's got their delicious, spicy, slightly spicy, very smoky flavored sauce and some shredded chicken and, whatever you want to add to it. I mean, I added like onions and bell peppers. You could add mushrooms to it. And really all I've got to say is if you're in the Boulder area, or if you're just in the Denver metro area of Colorado, check out Brothers Barbecue. I don't know if they're a chain or if there are other ones out there, but seriously, I can't recommend them enough. I just recently discovered them a couple of weeks ago. So
no, I know I'm going.
Now,
oh my goodness, that sounds good.
Yes. Before we wrap up the show, though, Elyse, you've got yourself a publishing company, and we got to plug that.
Yes, we are iPub Cloud International, or iPubCloud.org. It is a bookstore. It is a publishing site. We have all of the services you need to publish. And we are all about putting a spotlight on diverse voices, which has become so much more important nowadays. So we want to invite people to submit to the publishing house, absolutely. And in particular, specifically for the low vision and blind community, visit the VIMB Creatives Workshop.com or just VIMB Creatives Workshop. It'll allow you to submit there and get for the opportunity to publish in the anthology to have a full publishing with all of the bells and whistles as an anthology, or just up on the site, whatever your comfort may be. There's also news and networking there to help out, and the professional links to help with all of the other stuff we've talked about today for writing professionally and publishing.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Elyse. It feels like it's been, I don't know, just flew. This is one of those flyby episodes, but thank you so much for for all of this information, your time, and for having some fun with the experimental tool or trash round. We're going to have to do that more often. I think that was a good idea. Shout out Jonathan for doing that.
Yeah, tools trasher.
Yeah, tools trasher. That's what we're going to call it. That's a great name.
That works.
It works perfectly. Well, we'll definitely be linking to everything that you mentioned in the show notes. So go ahead and check everything out. And if you're interested in writing, the only thing that's stopping you is yourself. So
absolutely.
With that being said, if you'd like to write us any potential feedback, or if you'd like to leave us a voicemail, feedback@aftersight.org or 720-8856. Elyse, if you'd like people to follow you, where can they do that?
Well, I'm a bit of everywhere. So if you just Google Elyse Draper, ELYSE DRAPER, it'll actually take you to all of my goodies. And I have one book out that has been republished. It's the book club edition. It's Free Will, one word. And the book club edition, it's available wherever books are sold. Get your EPUB copy from Amazon. And upcoming soon, the audiobooks. So that would be fun. Let me know what you think. Reach out.
That would be awesome.
And I think that's it.
Thank you so much, Elyse, for joining me. It has been a blast of an episode.
Thanks, Evan. And we'll have to do part 2 next time. No code, po code.
Yes, I like that. Well, goodness gracious. Yeah, I don't know how many episodes we're going to create, but it seems like more than 2. But goodness gracious, thank you for joining me for Blind Level Tech. And thank you, everybody, for listening to another episode of Blind Level Tech. I've been your host, Evan Starnes, and we'll catch you guys again next week. Don't forget to embrace that AI.